Shalom. All praises, blessings, glories, and honors to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha, Kodash. Double honors to my Ella apostles and bishop elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth, as well of men of like mind. Shalom wa chasad, which means peace and mercy to the elect of the nation of Israel, whom I use so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, and Israelite foreigners of the seed line of our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whom is scattered here in America, which is Babylon the Great and abroad. To you I say Shalom, beginning with the 144,000 prophets, and Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, willing, this lesson is edifying and informative. 2 Ezra, chapter 8, verse 50. For many great miseries shall be done to them that in the latter time shall dwell in the world, because they have walked in great pride. 2 Ezra, chapter 15, verse 18. For because of their pride the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods, because of the lack of bread, and for great tribulation. In the news, from the U.S. Immigration News, New York in major crisis. Massive trucker boycott hits New York City hard after Trump fined over $355 million. Now, this is a 12-minute and 24-second video, so I will only play about 6 minutes. And then hit the scriptures, and then conclude the lesson, Lord's willing. Abaratazah, it is edifying.
And a lot of people expected something like this, but not for the amount. But this is a very dishonest man. This is a man that's been overturned already on this case 4 times. And we knew that from the beginning. We knew it right from the beginning because he wouldn't give it to the commercial division. This judge thought Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million, and it's worth anywhere from 50 to 100 times that amount. So we realized that. He ruled against me before he even got the case. He ruled against me. He said I was guilty. He didn't know what I was guilty of. Thank you very much. It's a very sad day for, in my opinion, the country. A New York State judge just ruled, and he's crooked as you could get. And a lot of people expected something like this, but not for the amount. But this is a very dishonest man. This is a man that's been overturned already on this case 4 times. But a crooked New York State judge just ruled that I have to pay a fine of $355 million for having built a perfect company. Great cash, great buildings, great everything. It affects New York. It's mostly talking about New York, where we have a totally corrupt attorney general. She campaigned on the fact that I will get Trump, I will get Trump. Everybody's saying it. Letitia James.
Well, certainly if truck drivers were to boycott New York City, the impact has the potential to be very damaging and very quickly. We're talking about supermarkets, big box stores, and other businesses that rely heavily on trucking. They would feel the pinch, and so would their customers. About 90% of communities here in New York City rely heavily on trucking to move their goods. This morning, we're...
Now, could New York, in its attempt to either prevent or mitigate this, try to persuade truckers by incentivizing them with more money to deliver these goods? Yes, they can. However, many of these truckers are patriotic, and they truly believe in Donald Trump. In fact, they see him as a god. And so, because of that, they could deny, even if approached in a persuasive manner by New York City, through an increase in the amount of money that they'll receive for delivering these goods, they could still deny that just to support Trump, just to make a point. So we simply have to sit back and watch the show and see how the Lord has this whole situation unfold. But we do know that the Lord will cause these cities, especially these major cities like New York, Chicago, among many others, to be troubled because of the pride of the people. Okay? Now let's listen on.
On the Jersey side of the George Washington Bridge, and every day you can see hundreds, if not thousands, of trucks crossing the bridge from Jersey into the city. Meanwhile, one man is now telling truck drivers not to come to New York City after former President Trump was hit with that massive multi-million-dollar fine last week. Take a listen.
It could shut New York City down. And, I don't want to hurt the people of New York. That's not what I'm trying to do. But my part in it, if New York just loses 10%, just 10% of the trucks that go in there, their prices are going to skyrocket on everything from milk to eggs to any type of goods that the consumer needs. And when that happens, it's going to cost everybody more money.
So I just want to say this. You build a great company. There was no fraud. The banks all got their money, 100%. They love Trump. They testified that Trump is great customer, one of our best customers. They testified beautifully. And the judge knows that. He's just a corrupt person. And we knew that from the beginning. We knew it right from the beginning because he wouldn't give it to the commercial division. This judge thought Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million, and it's worth anywhere from 50 to 100 times that amount. So we realized that. He ruled against me before he even got the case. He ruled against me, said I was guilty. He didn't know what I was guilty of.
Yeah, the man calls himself Chicago Ray, and as of last night, his post on X, formerly Twitter, had garnered more than 6 million views and 60,000 likes. Former President Trump also caught wind of what Chicago Ray is doing and reposted Ray's video on his platform, Truth Social. But it's hard to ascertain exactly how many drivers are answering his call and what kind of impact it may have. It's not an organized effort, and the drivers expressing support for Chicago Ray, they're scattered all across the country. We did reach out to the Teamsters Union, the union representing many truck drivers, but did not get a response. We also contacted and tried to call at least the National Supermarket Association, which is based here in New York City, but did not get a response. Meanwhile, Chicago Ray says he and other truckers are.
They've all seen it. Well, we'll be appealing, but more important than that, this is Russia, this is China. This is the same game. It all comes out of the DOJ. It all comes out of Biden. It's a witch hunt against his political opponent, the likes of which our country has never seen before. You see it in third world countries, banana republics, but you don't see it here.
I've been on the radio talking to drivers for about the last hour 15 minutes. And I'm talking to at least 10 drivers going the other way. I'm heading down from Stoughton, Wisconsin. And they're going to start refusing loads in New York City.
Policy, high taxes, uncompetitive regulation, and it was already on the top of the list of being a loser state. I would never invest in New York now, and I'm not the only person saying that, Bill McGinley, to bring it beyond just truck drivers potentially.
Yeah, this is not a one-off. This is now legal precedent. I mean, Letitia James and the AG's office and this judge have now set precedent that is probably disturbing a lot of the New York real estate developers because they're wondering, do we need to go back over this, right? Because at the end of the day, there were no victims. They had sophisticated banks who did their own due diligence on the claims of property value. He repaid it in full plus interest. There's nobody who was a victim here. And so now you have all these real estate developers who are looking at this and wondering if a Republican attorney general comes in, which is not going to happen anytime soon in New York, but maybe a Republican DA, someplace where they develop, are they now going to be vulnerable because of this precedent?
Yeah, but this is an outlier. Trump engaged in massive fraud over several years, so I think it's an outlier, but two, it's going to make real estate developers clean up their books if they need to be cleaned up. But more importantly, I don't think as a former president of the D.C. Chamber of Commerce, D.C., New York, and California are tough for businesses because of taxes and regulations, but those are mutually exclusive issues. Trump was an outlier and extraordinarily committed fraud, and we need to keep it the way and look at it the way it should be looked at.
This is trending on social media. Truckers for Trump.
Yeah. Well, and just go back off of what Chris said.
Now, this individual asked, what are some of the consequences that will arise from this? Let's find out. If trucks stop, now what would happen to the cities if and eventually when trucks do stop? In 24 hours, delivery of medical supplies to the affected area will cease. Hospitals will run out of basic supplies. Service stations will begin to run out of fuel. Manufacturers using just-in-time manufacturing will develop component shortages because the supply chain is extremely sensitive. U.S. mail and other package delivery will cease. Within one day, food shortages will begin to develop. Hence, we're going to start to see higher prices for goods in the supermarkets and grocery stores, delis and whatnot. Automobile fuel availability and delivery will dwindle, leading to skyrocketing prices and long lines at gas pumps. In 2 to 3 days, food shortages will escalate, and we will begin to see famine, especially in the face of hoarding and consumer panic. You're going to start to see people fighting over food, just like in the movie The Walking Dead. World War Z, people fighting for food, fighting for medicine, gunning each other down. Our Lord said, because iniquity shall abound, which iniquity is sin upon sin. What is sin? 1 John chapter 3, verse 4, it tells us that sin is transgression of the law of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. And the wages of sin and the wages of payment, the payment of sin is death. Okay? Supplies of essentials such as bottled waters, powdered milk, and canned meat at major retailers will disappear. Why? Because food shortages will escalate, especially in the face of hoarding and consumer panic. And again, because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. It will grow cold one against another, because these cities will be troubled because of the pride of the people. ATMs will run out of cash and banks will be unable to process transactions. It will be even worse if there's a cyber attack. Shit gets shut down completely. See, and then on top of that, plagues and pestilences. Service stations will completely run out of fuel. Garbage will start piling up in urban and suburban areas, and this will contribute to developing diseases, plagues, okay? Unhealthy settings. Container ships will sit idle in ports, and rail transport will be disrupted, eventually coming to a standstill. 1 week later, automobile travel will cease due to the lack of fuel. Hospitals will begin to exhaust oxygen supplies. You're going to start to see and hear of a lot of deaths in the hospitals. The second week, Clear water supply will begin to run dry, and then in the fourth week, the nation's clean water supply will be exhausted. And again, the most affected places will be cities, because cities are extremely, they're full of consumption, all right? Especially major cities like New York, Chicago, okay? Full of consumers that just consume and consume and consume. But they don't realize, they don't sit down and think to consider how they get their food. They just consume. Oh, everything's going to be all right. You know, we'll just get that later on in the store. You could go to whatever store you want at any time and just buy food. But those times will come to an end, because the Lord will send famine in these cities and throughout the country, throughout this land. So now let's get back to the scriptures and then conclude the lesson. 2 Ezra chapter 8. Al-Baradza, it has been informative and edifying. Verse 50, for many great miseries shall be done to them that in the latter time shall dwell in the world, because they have walked in great pride. And so because the people have walked in great pride, they will experience many great miseries in these latter times, during the evils, which means the bad times of Jacob's trouble. The Lord will appoint over them 4 kinds, according to Jeremiah chapter 15. They are the sword to slay, the dogs to tear, the fowls of the heaven, and the beasts of the earth to devour and destroy. Such as are for death to death, such as are for the sword to the sword, such as are for the famine to the famine, and such as are for the captivity to the captivity. And they will die of grievous deaths, according to Jeremiah chapter 16, verse 4, because they have walked in great pride. Okay, 2 Ezra chapter 15, verse 18. It says, for because of their pride, because they've walked in great pride, and because of their pride, the cities, and it is the people that makes up the cities, thus calling them cities. All right, for because of their pride, the cities shall be troubled. So these cities are going to be troubled because of the pride of the people. All you metro hoes and niggas, but especially you women, you're going to suffer very greatly. Okay, all your so-called bad bitches, you're going to suffer. No matter how big your ass is, no matter how pretty your face is, no matter how big your chest is, you will starve. Okay, your ass gonna starve. Then what? You're gonna have to start selling your box to make ends meet. And not only that, but you're gonna have men, these wild bug outs, they're gonna be taking your shit, grabbing you up, gang raping you. Okay, so all you so-called bad bitches, your so-called glow up era, whatever the fuck you want to call it, enjoy that shit while it lasts, because it's coming to an end. Playtime is over. Okay, playtime is over. It says the house shall be destroyed and men shall be afraid. So men are going to be afraid during those times. And if men are going to be afraid, if men are going to be as women, then how much more women? Huh? A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, with the gun, actual sword as well, and spoil, which means to take their goods, including their wives, their daughters, their sons, in addition to their victuals, their food and drink, because of the lack of bread, famine, and for great tribulation. So great tribulation is coming to the world, but especially to this land, in the form of Jacob's trouble, in the form of many great miseries, for the pride of the people, and because of all the wickedness. And so with that, I pray this lesson was edifying and informative to the elect. Lord's when I say, until the next. Shalom.